Welcome to another edition of the Outstanding People podcast. I'm your host, Slade Abisror. And don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel. We always post fantastic videos and photos there on our YouTube channel, Outstanding People with Slade Abisror. So go ahead and subscribe over there. Today, I have an awesome show for you. Adam Glyn is an Emmy-nominated producer, comedian, and former TMZ colleague of mine. He now hosts the Hollywood Raw podcast with another TMZ alum, Dax Holt. He also happens to be the most trusted A-list celebrity street journalist in the world, interviewing industry giants like Oprah, Shaq, The Rock, Beyonce, and so much more. I'm excited to talk to him today because he has had a ringside seat to some of the most iconic pop culture and sports defining moments in history. He was the reason Floyd Mayweather fought Conor McGregor. He confronted NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell in a nationally televised press conference after the Ray Rice incident. Beyonce asked him to be in her music video. He has worked as an intern for Howard Stern. His stories are epic and endless, and I'm really excited. We have a lot to unpack today, so let's get to it. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm excited to talk to you. As I said, you have elevated your career to such a place where the A-list celebrities seek you out. You have done interviews with everyone from Oprah to The Rock to Kevin Hart. You name it, they're there. You're responsible for some of the biggest defining moments in sports and pop culture history, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But what I wanted to do first is kind of go back because you started your career as a comedian. When did you start thinking about a career in comedy, and how did you kind of get into that?
When in school, I wasn't great in school. I wasn't bad.
I know that.
I just wasn't interested in stuff. For me, it was just the stuff that resonated with me did very well, and the stuff like math, and it just didn't, calculate. You hate to use the word calculate, but it didn't really like resonate with me.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just always kind of like a daydreamer and just kind of thinking about other things. And what happened was after high school, I really couldn't get into the colleges I want. So I said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to do stand-up comedy. And I went to a school close to home. I was a commuter for college. And so I would go to college during the day. And then at night, I'd go to New York City and I'd work at comedy clubs in exchange for stage time. I wouldn't get paid in money, but I would get paid with able to do like 5 minutes at night. I'd hand out flyers in Times Square. I'd work as a barback and a busboy and a hostess at comedy clubs just so I could get stage time to kind of work on it. And that was kind of like my college career. It wasn't Thursday nights partying, which looking back, I wish I kind of had that kind of life. But, it was just it's just what I had to do. And it was interesting. It was fun. It was kind of exciting. I was just kind of like hanging out with like older guys.
And how did you know that? How did you know that you were good at comedy? Were you like kind of like a class clown in school, or were you the kind of guy that would told jokes all the time around your friends?
I was a wise ass, but I was pretty funny. And I hate to say like, oh, that's kind of like a narcissistic comment, but it was like I was funny. I was I was creative. I had weird ideas. I was outgoing. I was very outgoing. And I was like, I just didn't in my mind though. I just think in my head, like looking back. I think working, I came from a very blue collar, middle class area, and everyone who I kind of grew up, a lot of people did that. I just couldn't see myself doing that. I just thought to me that would be the ultimate like torture for me to kind of do something like that, from working 40 hours a week to hammering nails. And there's nothing wrong with that. I commend people that do. I think
it just wasn't for you.
Professional. It just wasn't for me. I just wasn't handy, and I just knew it would just be. It wouldn't put me mentally in the right position.
Right. And then, so your career kind of progressed in comedy because you opened for DL Hughley, Artie Lang, was it Shawn Waynes? I read.
Shawn Waynes, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those are some pretty heavy hitters in the industry.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool. Like in college, like I became friends with some, some minor celebrities, like I remember running around the comedy scene. And again, this was like 2005-ish, 2004, 2006, between that, around those years. Around the comedians that were kind of coming up were guys like Kevin Hart. So I'd see Kevin Hart at the comedy clubs, guys like Pete Holmes, and it was kind of cool to like see these guys, Patrice O'Neal, Greg Giraldo.
Wow.
And like I was hanging with these guys. Like I would get to see them every night. And my senior year of college, I became, I wanted to get in. I needed an internship. And, I had a friendship with Artie Lang, and Artie Lang kind of put in a word and got me an internship at the Howard Stern show. And this is back when Howard Stern was at K-Rock. So I became like a writer's assistant intern kind of at K-Rock, and I worked my ass off there. First of all, I was a huge Howard Stern fan. And I was at K-Rock at Sirius and went to Sirius with them as well. And it was pretty cool. I mean, I got to be around there every morning. It was very hard work. I didn't get paid in money. I got paid in credit, college credit, but my days were insane. I mean, this was my life my senior year of college. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning, catch a 3:45 a.m. train to go into the city, get into the city about like a little after 4. I didn't have enough money to get to the studio. So I either had to use the money to pay for a Subway, or I'd use the money to get powdered milk and cereal, and that would be my breakfast. And I'd work at the Stern show till about 2 in the afternoon, and then I would take the train home, sleep a little bit on the train ride home. I'd go to the gym real quick because I was still like gym obsessed. Then I'd go to class from 5 to 9. Then at 9 p.m. at night, I would take my car and drive back into the city, do stand up, try to get home as soon as possible, go to sleep, and wake up the next day at 3 in the morning.
Wow.
It's pretty insane, right? I mean, I look back, I was like, wow.
It is insane, and I feel like, that's what back in the day, I mean, that's what you had to hustle, right? To get ahead. I remember working at NBC. I did my internship at the Rosie O'Donnell show, and same thing. I worked for a $5 piece of paper that I can go to the commissary and I can get a meal with a $5 piece of paper. But there was no compensation as far as monetary compensation. You hustled because you wanted something badly. I have to imagine working at Howard Stern. I mean, especially in the K-Rock day, there had to be some crazy times. What were some of the antics that you saw happen there?
I mean, you gotta understand, I was the biggest Howard Stern fan. I was obsessed with the show. I mean, I worked odd jobs through college, and in the mornings I would hide at the odd jobs just trying to listen to the morning. I would always say Howard Stern in the morning was like my coffee in the morning. It's what got me going. So, I mean, it was pretty cool because I got to meet a lot of celebrities. I got to meet Bon Jovi, Jon Stewart. I mean, just like some really huge names. But not only that, I got to see get on the phone. I was on the phone with the Wack Packers every day.
Oh, wow.
I got to meet like Beetlejuice and became friends with some of the Wack Packers and guys like Bob Levy, who I got to go on the road with on the weekend. So it was kind of wild. The cool part is being at the Stern Show, I got to also write for them. And there was these writers meetings every Thursday. And this was like one of the coolest things. They allowed you to be part of the writers meetings. So I would be in a meeting with Howard, and I got to pitch him ideas. And I still have a lot of the notes. I saved a lot of the notes from the writers meetings about and I used to love pitching ideas to Howard. And he didn't really know who I was, but most of the interns were quiet. But I was like, here's my time to shine. I'm like, hey, and I always read off a bunch of ideas, and not a lot of them stuck. I'm not gonna lie. I thought some of them were still good, but it was just Howard loved the creative process, and I think he respected someone like, hey, let's try to be funny, and here's a guy who came in with a bunch of ideas and just try to be silly. But I love the writers meetings, but I got to, I was there during a very crucial time, the Howard Stern show. This was when he's ending his time at terrestrial radio and going to satellite radio, which was a pretty huge launch. So it was just kind of wild. It was exciting. It was cool. It was fun. And I mean, being part of Howard Stern's last day at K-Rock, and we had this floor that all the Wack Packers had to hang out with before they went outside to when they closed the street down. And it was just if you're a Stern fan, you were in Stern heaven, just being surrounded by Beetlejuice and Wendy, the slow adult, and the Jeff the Drunks and stuff. It was.
I remember that was when they closed off the street, and there was a huge just gathering, and there was a stage, and Howard came out and spoke to everybody. I was out there on the streets. I remember that.
Yeah. Here's the crazy part about that day. I was there. And then on the morning that I had to go to work that day, I remember going on the train, and usually the train was I was the first train in the morning coming from Jersey, and the train was usually just empty. This train that morning was completely full, and I was like, whoa, what is going on? And I remember I had to sit next to these two guys on the train because it was that full. And the two guys I started talking to, and I said, hey, I'm actually an intern at the Stern Show. Get out. They're like, we gotta, can you show us where to go? We'll buy you a cab to go. We'll jump in a cab, take taxi to there. I was like, all right, cool. We go there, and the guys were super nice. And again, I was such a fan of the show, and I got to make those guys' day and kind of bond over the Stern Show, that they gave me this job the day of the Stern Show where I had to walk around and give 10 people $1,000 randomly.
Wow.
And they basically say, hey, walk around, give people $1,000. And I walked around and I gave like a few random people, like, hey, where's the name where you're from? Hey, here's $1,000. And I ran up to those guys and I gave them $1,000.
Oh, that's so
you know,
cool.
and it was like so crazy and such a cool thing. But and then I remember afterwards, I think we had an after party at the was it the Hard Rock or something like that, like Stern's last day. It was just like a wild time to be part of the Stern show.
Wow. And did you go over to Sirius with them, or was that your last day?
So I went to Sirius with them, but this story doesn't end that great. I mean, I was a good intern, and I loved Benji. I loved Sal, the stockbroker, Richard Christie. I mean, I know those guys for years before, because just through the stand-up scene, I know who those guys were.
Sure.
And I became really close with Benji and Gary Delbate, Baba Booey, and I was a good intern. And then what happened was, at the end of my semester, for some reason, and I don't know why. I still, looking back, I don't know why, because it's sort of sucked at the time. But right now, I look back, I'm like, I'm pretty happy it didn't happen. A few other guys got jobs and I didn't. And I was just remembered, that's when like depression hit. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I put all my eggs in this one basket. I was such a huge fan of the show. I did a great job. And these other guys got jobs and I didn't. I remember just like giving on my resume, talking to them like, hey, is there any job I could do anything? And these other guys got jobs and I didn't. And I was bummed, man. I was in a really dark hole. I was like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And at the time, Tim Sabian was the program director, and I tried talking to him about a job. There was just no jobs. At the time, I think it was Sirius and XM were merging, so there was just nothing going on. And I basically went unemployed for 2 years after that. And here I am with a college degree. I'm in debt. I have college loans to pay, and I couldn't get a job for 2 years. And I couldn't even get an interview. And then, I'm like, this is about 06 to 08. This kind of during the recession kind of started going on. I'm like, what am I do? So I went back to college and got my teaching certification. But during my college time, I did stand-up comedy all through night. I did odd jobs to pay my bills. And, I was doing stand-up comedy at night, golf caddying, and I was even doing stuff where I was doing like suntan lotion tests on my back for like $30, where they burn your back and test out suntan lotion just for money. And I was in a really kind of dark place.
That's pretty low to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And then what happened during that time, my buddy, who was a professional wrestler, and when I mean professional wrestler, he was like in the indie stuff, and wrestling, and he became a really close friend of mine. We were both in the same thing. We both couldn't get jobs. He worked at a Dairy Queen at night, and he was this jacked guy. And me and him, we'd work out during the day. So we'd work out for like 3 hours during the day, and then at night, I would just go and hang out with him at Dairy Queen and just eat ice cream while he worked. Like, we just hung out all the time. And he got a tryout with the WWE, and he wound up getting into the WWE from that tryout.
Oh, wow.
And he met a guy from TMZ and said, hey, you got to meet my buddy Adam. And I didn't even know what TMZ was at the time. At the time, Perez Hilton was really big.
Right.
And I loved Perez Hilton. Facebook was really starting to get going. I knew a lot about the celebrity world. I knew my way around New York City. I loved Page Six. And my buddy just said, my friend who's a wrestler met the guy from TMZ, who was a fan of wrestling, said, you got to meet my buddy Adam. I met the guy. Me and him hit it off. A few months later, he came to a show and kind of saw me perform and said, he seemed funny, not threatening, no pop culture. You should come work at TMZ. And I was like, listen, I'll do anything for health insurance. And I didn't even know what it was. And then in 2010, I think it was, they gave me a job. They called me on a Friday night after I had like a 2-minute phone meeting with TMZ. Like, literally, it was a 2-minute phone meeting saying, kind of explain the job, and someone referred you. I was like, listen, I'll do anything. Tell me. And I got a job as a TMZ camera guy for 2 weeks. They gave you a little trial period
right.
of 2 weeks. And you didn't get a trial period, right?
No, because when I came over to TMZ, I went over there in 2012, and they hired me to create TMZ Live. So when I went over there, it was with a distinct job of creating this program. So I needed a little more than 2 weeks to do that.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, they gave me a 2-week trial to see what I could do. And I remember the 2 weeks happened right during Memorial Day weekend. So it was like a really dead time. And that time, celebrities aren't even in New York. They're going to the Hamptons. They're traveling. But in those 2 weeks, like, I was pretty calm. I was pretty, I didn't get arrested. I was kind of, I worked well with them. I got 2 celebrities. I got one interview with, I remember my biggest interview was a rapper Chameleonaire, and it was a nice, fun interview. And they're like, hey, that was great. And they wanted to give me a 3-year contract. And that's how my TMZ venture started.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. When I went to TMZ, I had just left Ellen and didn't leave on the best terms. Like I had a really great time working and producing Ellen, and then towards the end, I mean, everybody heard the stories of the executive producer there who kind of was mean to everybody. Well, I kind of got that towards the end, and I made the decision that I was going to leave. And like you, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was like, oh crap, my wife was pregnant at the time, and um, then I was working some other jobs, and I got a call from Jim Paratori, who created TMZ with Harvey, and I knew him from Ellen and Rosie and Telepicture days. And he wanted me to come over, and he was telling me about this new show, TMZ Live, that they wanted to create. And like, I didn't really know a lot about TMZ. All I knew I knew about the negative connotations that it had. The people, it was like, oh, paparazzi in celebrities' faces, and that's what I thought. So I didn't want to take the job. Um, and I got on the phone with Harvey, and as you know, Harvey can be very convincing. And so him and Jim, they convinced me to take the job. And when I got to TMZ, I realized that all my preconceived notions of what it was were just untrue. That it was a really well-oiled machine. There was a lot of fact checking into celebrity stories. That the photogs would go out there, and they were not allowed, they weren't chasing celebrities. They were actually very respectful to celebrities. So I enjoyed my time going over there and working there. But after 2 years, I was like, I want to go do something else. And then I just keep getting pulled back back into TMZ. But that's where I met you. Somewhere around that 2012, 13 mark is where I started
Yeah.
seeing you pop up on the screen from New York, and you were getting all these stories, and it was really cool.
Yeah, no, it was. You were very good to me. You were great to me, and I really appreciate that. During that time, you were there when it was. I mean, we were there during when TMZ was
Oh
like
yeah, I mean
good.
there.
I mean, like when it was like crazy
Yeah, I mean
during
there were
crazy
moments
times.
when so I left after doing TMZ Live for 2 years, went off, I did some other shows, then I came back to do TMZ Sports, and that's where I mean some really big stuff happened that you were a part of as well, where the whole Ray Rice situation blew up, where Ray Rice was caught on camera. He beat his wife in an elevator, and I guess the NFL was trying to, throw it under the rug a little bit. And you go to the press conference with the commissioner of the NFL, a nationally televised press conference to talk about this video that came out from TMZ. And you have the quote of the century to, Roger Goodell. And I'll let you kind of tell the story, but it was amazing. Like you became national, like international news.
Yeah, it was. That was a wild time. I mean, well, to paint a picture, when I first started TMZ, we're gonna get it right into this. When I first started doing the job, I didn't know if I felt like a good guy doing the job.
Hmm.
It's a very intrusive kind of thing. Like just going on, putting a camera on people, trying to talk to them. Like it got weird.
Yeah.
When I first started, and people are constantly on the street, not even just the celebrities, but people on the street, like get a real life, get a job, stop stalking them. I was like, it was a kind of a hard balance in myself, like in my soul. Like, do you feel comfortable doing what you're doing? But also a part of me is like, I need to provide, I need money. And after 2 years, realized doing it, I realized I need to kind of make the interviews about me. And I start to have really funny experiences and try to find some fun in the job. So now onto this Ray Rice story. TMZ broke the story about Ray Rice hitting his girlfriend in a casino in Atlantic City, and it became one of the biggest stories out there at the time. And the NFL did a press conference on a Friday, and I think we tried to apply to go to the press conference, and they wouldn't allow TMZ into the press conference. So it was a normal Friday. I'm just hanging out, and I get a call to say, "Hey, try to see what we could do to get this press conference." So I took a coworker with me, and we were wearing gym shorts and gym t-shirts, and everyone shows up to this press conference. It was at the Hilton, the hotel, and everyone's wearing like suits and they're dressed up, and we look like we're about to like shoot like a high school yearbook type video. Like it's not a big, our cameras compared to like ESPN and Fox News cameras don't even compare. It's really awkward. And I remember we just kind of blend in, and we got in, and no one stopped us going in, and we kind of hung in the back of the press conference and set the camera, and we were going live on TMZ Live. The press conference starts, and Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, starts talking about the whole Ray Rice incident. And afterwards, they go, "Is there any—" well, actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm sitting there during the press conference and realize how stupid, how boring this is. I'm sitting there. I call my friend Benji from the Stern Show, and Benji, do you know the story, Slade?
No, no,
Do you remember this?
no. I didn't.
So I'm so bored, like watching this press conference, and I'm wearing a gym shorts. I stand out. I look like a camp counselor in the back of the room, and I'm so bored. I call Benji. I go, Benji, you need to crash this press conference. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, just go in through the side. I told him how to get in there and just crash the press conference. And Benji just so happened to be around the corner, and he did.
Wow.
He crashed the press conference. Became a huge story. I was like, oh shit! I can't film my curse. But Benji crashed the press conference, and it was a thing that me and Benji set up, which was super funny. Well, later that towards the end of the press conference, they started to do Q&A from the audience, and I noticed the publicists of the NFL kept giving the microphone to the same people.
Mm-hmm.
They give the microphone to Rachel Nichols at ESPN, or gave the microphone to Peter King of Sports Illustrated. Microphone kept going to the same people pretty much. It was just so BS. I kept raising my hand to ask a question, and the publicist would ignore me. I go, dude, you see me with my hand up, answer, give me the microphone. Finally, towards the end, they gave me my microphone. And, I wait my time to go, hey, Mr. Goodell, my name's Adam Glyn from TMZ and TMZ Sports. As soon as I say that, the whole room turned around. I was like, oh, TMZ's here. And I asked a question, and I said, Mr. Goodell, I asked a question about the situation. He kind of gave me a very PC answer without answering. He answered the question without answering the question. And basically, how did you not find the video in it? That's basically what the question revolved around. Then I said, Mr. Goodell.
Question I want these experts to do.
We found out by one phone call. You guys have a whole legal department. Can you explain that? We found out by just one phone call.
I can't explain how you got the information. Only you can do that. So.
We found out by one phone call. You guys have a whole legal department. Can you explain that to me? And then that basically gave me a kind of a BS answer back. And then they kind of wrapped the press conference immediately. And then all of a sudden, the press conference kind of wraps up. And all the press, the media outlets start coming up to me. Hey, great job. Hey, great job. I'm like, oh, thanks. I'm not even thinking anything of it. Then I get a call from the people in LA, from TMZ, and they go, hey, Adam, what's the vibe there for you? I'm like, it was good. Everyone's saying good job. It worked out well. Got a question in. They're like, you're trending on Twitter. I go, what? Like, you're trending on Twitter. I go, get out. I look at my phone. My phone is blowing up. My Twitter's blowing up. I'm like, what is going on? People keep responding to me. And me and my buddy who I worked with, I'm like, yo, what is going on? We get into my car, and Mike Francesco, who's like the biggest radio host in New York, is talking about me on his show. We're like, what is going on? And my phone is blowing up. Next, that weekend, John Oliver, Rachel Maddow, maybe even Anderson Cooper, they're all talking about me on their shows, talking about the guy who asked the question at the press conference. And the quote of being, hey, Mr. Goodell, you guys have a whole legal department. Can you explain that to me? Became the number 4 quote of 2014 in the American Public Library.
Yeah, it was so crazy and amazing at the same time. I mean, you basically took a giant and put him in his place, because like you said, they were just pussyfooting around the whole incident. And it was a serious incident, right? Like the NFL was covering up a domestic violence case on one of their biggest players in the league. And everyone's, asking the PC questions. You come out and you called them on it, and it was so brilliant. It was just amazing. I remember that so well. And we were in the office just going, oh my God, like this is a huge moment.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the moments that changed my career, I don't want to say changed my life, because I just smoked a joint that night, whatever. But I mean, I was pretty stoned before, but it was, I mean, it was just a wild thing, just because you don't think anything of it, and you throw a grenade out there and you hope to listen, and the world responds, and it was like, wow, what's going on? It was just crazy. It was very surreal, because again, I wasn't supposed to be there, and then somehow getting there and then getting on the mic, and just the things that happened from results from all of it just kept spiraling. It was just wild.
Yeah. And then, so you wind up changing the narrative. And I don't know if you set out to do this or if you meant to do it, but what you really did is you changed the narrative of what a street photographer would be. Because prior to that, it was really, the word paparazzi would get like this connotation of, like you said, going up to people and putting a camera in their face. You changed the way that street journalists work. You started to become friendly with or I wouldn't say friendly, you started to gain the trust and respect of A-list celebrities on the street. And your interviews started to trend. You started to talk to people like Oprah. And, I mean, you have Kevin Hart, Oprah, Shaq, The Rock, Rhianna, Beyonce, all these people started coming up to you Did you know at the time, was that something that you set out to do to kind of change that narrative and change the way that street journalism is done? Or was that something by accident? How did that happen?
It was actually, it's a good question. I think it was something where it just needed to do. First, the word paparazzi, like you said, had a negative tone to it. You know, people think paparazzi, it's never, oh, it comes from the word mosquito. You're annoying. It's not a glamorous job, and people don't reflect on it. Like, people just don't see it as a good word. So, and I never considered myself a paparazzi. You know, I know paparazzi, and I don't even consider those guys paparazzis. I consider them journalists, but I was like, I don't do something a little bit different. Like, I need to interact with each other. Paparazzi are usually about 50 yards away taking photos. I need to get up close to the person. So I didn't want to, like, again, label myself, and TMZ would label me as a photog, like our TMZ photog. I'm like, I'm not a TMZ photog. And I was like, actually, you hired me as a producer. You know, actually, you hired me as a cameraman, then you changed my title to producer, but then you still call me a photog in your article. And I was like, dude, this is getting weird. So I just came up I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start calling myself a street journalist. And it's so weird because I just made up that title. And then all of a sudden, like, other people started calling themselves street journalists. I'm like, guys, you guys know I just bullshitted this. Okay. I was like, I put it on my LinkedIn. I was like, I'm just going to start calling myself a street journalist, which makes no sense. Like, what does that even mean? But I just need to kind of take that word paparazzi out of it. I just need to start keep like, hey, I'm a street journalist. I'm a street journalist. I'm a street journalist, and put that in people's heads so they didn't kind of consider me a paparazzi. But what happened was my strategy was again, when I first started, people did not want to be around TMZ and didn't want to be around me. But I need to earn their trust. And by earning their trust, my strategy was for every single time a celebrity comes to New York, I want them to see me. I want them to run to my face. I want them to know my face. I want them to run into me. I want them to get used to seeing me. I want to become the celebrity for celebrities. I want to be part of the New York experience. I want to be the naked celebrity. I want to be the naked cowboy
right.
for these celebrities. You know, not the naked celebrity, the naked cowboy for celebrities. And that's what happened. Every single time Kim Kardashian, Shaquille O'Neal, Adam Sandler, you know, every single time they came to New York, I made sure I crossed paths with them at some point so they'd always see me. And that's what happened. And I'd always ask questions, but they weren't like jerk questions. But it was just like I was always smiling, I was always happy, and I just having fun. And I just they would get used to seeing me, and there's the new like they started to like calm down, like, hey, he's not a bad guy. And some people would start to answer my questions, and they'd realize, hey, the questions weren't bad, but then they'd see how big the videos got, and they're like, hey, that was good exposure for the person.
Right.
And then what finally happened actually was Shaquille O'Neal was the first celebrity to take me under his wing, and Shaq was the first one where, you know, I'll be honest now, we exchanged numbers, we kept in touch, and like I was good to him and he was good to me. But we made these videos and content that went huge and it got tons of views. And I think other people start to see the videos and people just like, hey, I saw you with Shaq. Oh, and like basically if this person wouldn't mess with me, they would see me messing with another celebrity and they're like, oh man, I should mess with this guy, but if this person's messing with them. Right. And it just kind of broke the ice for other people. And Shaq was the first one to kind of really take me under his wing. But I also knew, like, you know, TMZ wanted clickbaited stuff. You know, let's be honest. They want stuff that's going to go on the website and bring in clicks. I was like, I will bring you in celebrities, but I won't bring you in clicks. I'm going to make the narrative about me or about making about them, where it's just fun and interesting and curious. So I would try to have fun interactions with celebrities. And I think that's what started to change everything. I started to change like the voice of like the TMZ camera guy culture.
That's right.
And more had like a good experience with these people rather than asking them about something that's going on in the news where they have nothing to do with, but we want their take on it, which I just didn't want to be that guy. It wasn't fun for me.
Yeah, right. No, I think it's awesome that you did that. And it paid off. Is there ever a time, is there a question that you remember asking that as soon as it came out of your mouth, you were like, oh shit, I shouldn't have asked that, and you get like a weird response? Or
yeah, I mean, I would always go for that stuff. To me, that was always funny. Like I loved, like I remember Jerome Bettis. I you know, it was an interesting question, but I just remember his reaction was great. When I asked Jerome Bettis, I would say, hey, the locker rooms in the NFL, are they group showers or individual showers? And like he was just like, it's a fair question, but he's like, like he just didn't know how to answer that. And
right.
To me, that was actually a fair, good question, because I just want to know if like a bunch of naked guys are together or are they individual stalls, and even questions like, do they give you shampoo and conditioner, or do you have to bring your own? Like that's the stupid stuff that I'm into. But I think that actually the audience is sort of into that stuff too. Like
right.
they have to bring their own conditioner and shampoo, or is it they're waiting for them? So I mean, his response was very like, man, you're weird, dude. But it was just like a fun, like to me that was just funny. That was just a great question. So, but it was just about just having like a fun experience with them, really. Like I remember like Jessica Alba, who was one of those people who would always ignore me, and I would mess with her because since she would always ignore me, I go, Jessica, I'm filming for a silent film. I want to audition right now. I want to see how we do, Jessica. So can I see you audition for you right now? And she ignored me the entire time. I go, congrats, Jessica, you're perfect. After she ignores me, like like it was just one of those things where I'm gonna make. I knew you were gonna ignore me, so I'm gonna play off as you ignore me. And honestly, dude, I always say, I'm the biggest interview you do all day. When you do Live with Kelly, if you do the Today Show, I always said it was fake. It was just like, you're not seeing a real interview where like when you do the stuff with me on the street and you get to see how the person really is. You get a sense of like how that person is in real life. And also it's cool to see where they're at on the streets. And it shows just the humility of like some of these celebrities.
Sure.
And I just think it's more personal, it's more fun, it's more raw, it's more exciting. It's just cooler.
And you've interviewed people. I mean, you've interviewed Oprah, all these big names. You've been doing this for so long. Do you still get nervous walking up to a celebrity, or is there anybody in particular that is just so big that you would get nervous talking to?
I don't know. I haven't gotten nervous in a really long time, but I get more. To me, it's more adrenaline rather than nerves. It's exciting because I don't know how they're going to respond, and also like, are they going to talk to me or not? Like for example, Friday I got Billy McFarland, the guy who created the Fire Festival. And to me, that was like, I think he's an interesting guy. Is he the biggest celebrity? No, but he's in the news, and guy just got out of jail, and he's on the street, and like, this is a big interview. And like my adrenaline is like, man, like let's see what happens. And he actually wound up talking to me for 3.5 minutes. In my head, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna monetize. I'm gonna make money. Okay, this is cool. This is exciting. I got Billy McFarland. Holy shit! So it's more of like the adrenaline, and I'm more addicted to the adrenaline than meeting the celebrity. I mean, I've interviewed Oprah a bunch of times. I don't get nervous. Actually, it's like it's more exciting when you talk to them. And she's cool. Like she's great. And you know what? Again, there's no camera on me. Like it's more like it's just fun.
And what's the process with somebody like that? Before you get them, are you trying to think of something that will be buzzworthy or something that will catch them off guard? Like what is the process on because you have to like in the moment come up with something to ask them if you don't know ahead of time that you're going to talk to these people. What is the process of coming up with something that is going to be a worthy question?
So if I have time, I'll Google the person. If I could do as much research on this, if I know someone's, let's be real, if they're eating inside a restaurant, I know they're gonna be coming out. If I have time, I'll try to Google them and see what they're working on, what's maybe some stuff they've done, maybe something that's within the news that they're doing. That'd be great. If I could do it every time, that'd be awesome. It doesn't always work like that. Like sometimes, like it's a dark street on a Friday night at 9 o'clock at night, and it's raining, and all of a sudden there's Billy Cunningham walking down, Billy McFarland from walking down the street. I'm like, I can't wait around to Google and start looking for questions. I gotta just start rambling now. So I just kind of run with it and just go. And I know from I'm pretty
you have experience
obsessed with pop culture, so so I know a lot of stuff about some of these people. I watch a lot of stuff. I consume a lot of content, read a lot of news. So I kind of have usually an idea of some of these people, but that's part of the fun part too, is just kind of roll with it and go with it. I mean, I'll be in front of a hotel a bunch of times, and all of a sudden a black SUV pulls out, and I don't know who's going to open the door. It could be someone like a Dave Matthews, or it could be someone like George W. Bush. I don't know. You never know what's going to happen, and then you just kind of run with it and you go, and that's the excitement of it for me. That's the adrenaline of me. That's what I chase. It's more of like the adrenaline of it.
That's amazing. And one thing I wanted to mention too is your Instagram is hilarious, man. If anyone's looking for great content or just wants to see great celebrities, go to @Adam Glyn on Instagram. I was like, not only your Fire Festival post about how you're starting a new festival, but your coverage of Fashion Week was hilarious, dude, with the fake accent and the questions you were asking the people about the Taliban, stupid. About the Fashion Week is trying to put an end to the Taliban. It's so great.
So what happened was I was at the Time 100 event probably about like 7 years ago. And all of a sudden I'm at the Time 100, where Time 100 throws this gala of the 100 most influential people, and they do an annual episode of it. And I'm there, and what happens is these publicists bring a lot of people over to you and say, hey, would you like to talk to this person? Would you like to talk to that person? Majority of the people, you have no idea who they are, and you don't really want to even waste the edit or film them talking to them, because you can't do everyone. But the guy next to me kept agreeing to every single person. And he just kept on saying, he'd be all flustered when they'd be like, hey, would you like to talk to Lars Fabian? And you're like, oh, yeah, absolutely. And this first question, like, well, who are you wearing tonight? And I was just like, what are you talking? It's the stupidest question. Who are you wearing tonight? And that happens at every single red carpet. I realize they always ask, who are you wearing tonight? It's the stupidest question, and nobody cares. Us at home are like, we don't care the designer you're wearing. We're never going to afford it. We're not like, we shop at Target or the mall. Like, it's our Macy's. Like, let's be real. Majority of people don't care about who are you wearing tonight. So I just started going to these fashion shows, even red carpets, and I just asked that question, who are you wearing? The designer? And then I just go fashion forward, fashion backwards, where it sounds so stupid while I've been talking to you. And I just ask people with a random voice, and I make up questions like fashion forward, fashion backwards. How would you describe your style tonight? And just to hear these people in the fashion world describe their style and their fashion.
Oh, it was brilliant. It was brilliant
asked,
because
like,
they're actually answering your questions, and they're serious, and you're asking all these stupid questions. Not that you were stupid. It was meant to be stupid, and they're answering them, and I'm just cracking up laughing.
Is it great that the fashion community came together to say no more Taliban this year and say we're totally out?
Of course, yeah, definitely. Everyone knows fashion is revolved around everything, so we're here to stay together and support each other.
Well, it's just like they take themselves so seriously, and it's such a weird thing where like it's Fashion Week is not real. Like it's not real fashion. So then I just try to see. I kept always trying to see how far I could take it. Where I ask these people like, "Hey, we're raising money. Isn't it great that the fashion community came together to say no more Taliban?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's great. It's so no more Taliban." Or, "Hey, we're putting the proceeds of this year's Fashion Week is to raise money to send children to Burning Man and to Coachella." And just to see how these people, they start answering the questions. And it would just be so fun. It would just make people pose on the street because there's all these fake paparazzi on the street taking photos of these people. So I was just like kind of trolling, but just kind of making fun and having fun.
Dude, it was great. I love how you asked that one person, you were like, show me your fierce look. Show me. And the person's like doing it.
Show me fierce. Show me power pose. Show me water. And they just pose like, show me water. Okay, here's water. And it's just, and it's funny because like of all the things I do, those fashion videos are the videos that get people, like they look forward to it. People like, I'll be walking down the street and people yell at me like, hey, yeah, fashion forward, fashion backwards. Who are you wearing? The designer. They're yelling it to me on the street. And
that's awesome.
It's become like such a big thing where I have like a following just from that. And the best part is I went to the TV upfronts like 3 years ago. And it was like the CW upfronts, and I would always troll there because it's all these random TV stars, and they never approved me for the red carpet. So like, hey, since you won't allow me on the red carpet, I'm gonna troll outside the red carpet. And I would always say, hey, who are you wearing? The designer, fashion forward, fashion backwards, and the audience, like people around, loved it. So every single celebrity that would kind of walk on the red carpet, everyone was screaming, who are you wearing? Who are you wearing? The designer, who are you wearing? And the actors and actresses like, what is going on? Like, why is everyone asking me who I'm wearing? It became like a whole crowd thing, the crowd versus celebrity.
So
it's really fun for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'd mentioned too, that you've been a part of some really great defining moments in pop culture and sports history. A couple things I wanted to ask you about is at one point you were filming Beyonce, and Beyonce grabs you, pulls you into her music video, and you become a part of the EXO Beyonce music video. Tell us how that happened and what was going through your head at that time.
Yeah, man, that was just, whoa. I mean, talking about right place, right time, and just sort of like, it was so. I get a tip that Beyonce is filming something at Coney Island, and it was like a Wednesday or Tuesday in the afternoon. It's a beautiful day, Coney Island. I get down there, and there's like nobody there. It was me and another paparazzi. We're just sitting there, and like there's nothing going on for like an hour and a half. We're just walking around the boardwalk. There's nothing going on. Just it's a regular day at Coney Island. But then all of a sudden, like we're starting to see like cameras come in. We're like, okay, something's gonna happen. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Beyonce shows up with like a guerrilla style team. It starts walking around Brooklyn, around Coney Island, just like filming content. Nobody knows what she's doing. But, when Beyonce shows up, a crowd starts to evolve. And there's tons of people. Like, hundreds of people are calling people. You got to come here. Beyonce's walking around Coney Island right now. She's shooting something. Nobody knows what's going on. And I couldn't even get close to her at this point because there's so many people. Finally, I'm about to go home, and a buddy calls me. He goes, hey, dude, I think you should come back. Beyonce's on the beach. I think you could get close to her. So I race on the beach. I get as close as possible, and I'm like, "What up?" And I just figured I had my camera up. I go, "What up, B?" And she goes, "What up?" I go, "B, this is crazy." And I don't even really know her at this point. She's like, "Yeah, this is nuts." And I go, "B, you want me to do a cameo?" She goes, "Come on, come do a cameo." And she pulls me in.
Wow.
I start to like dance with her for a second. It just looks like it's a fun interaction between me and her. It's cute. It's fun. It's silly. And then like the rest of the day, the security like kind of like kept me close to them. Like they're just like, "Oh, he's cool, Beyonce. He could hang." And I remember she was near the bumper cars, and I just went over to her, "Hey, B, like, thanks for doing that. That was so sweet." She goes, "No, thanks for coming. I appreciate it." She was super cool and chill, and I just kind of kept it very cool with her. Like, I kept it very chill, but we didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
5 months later, it was a Friday morning, and I get a call at 3 a.m. from a buddy. He goes, "Hey, you're in the new Beyonce video." I go, "Yeah, okay." Like, yeah, we did that during the summer. Like that was cool. Next thing you know, I get a call from 7 a.m. "Yo, you're on Good Morning America right now. Like everyone's talking, you're in the Beyonce's new album. She had
wow.
the surprise album, all these music videos." I'm like, "What?" And I go on my computer. I'm like, "Holy shit, like this is insane." And then I'm driving to work, and I'm driving through Times Square, and I see myself on the big screen in Times Square. I'm like, "What is going on?" And it just became like I'm in the Beyonce video. I was in the EXO music video, and the video was awesome. The video was awesome. The clip was awesome. The song is awesome. It was just like perfect. It became like my Courtney Cox moment. Remember Courtney Cox
Right.
was in a Bruce Springsteen
That's
video?
right.
Well,
She
that
got
was
pulled
my
up on
Courtney Cox
stage.
moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was just pretty incredible. It
That
was
that
really
is
cool. Like,
that
it's
is
part of
really
history,
cool. Yeah, it really,
The
and
rest
that's
of
what
my
I
life, I
mean.
can say it was a Beyonce video.
Yeah, I mean that's why I say it's like you have been a part of like some really cool defining moments in not only pop culture, sports history. Another one I wanted to talk about that is just insane to I didn't even know this. When I was doing my research, getting ready to talk to you, I saw this and I was like, "What?" That you were the reason Floyd Mayweather fought Conor McGregor.
Actually, I want to say thank you because you was a part of making one of the biggest fights in history happen.
I appreciate that.
I was walking from down the street, and you asked me a question about
Conor McGregor,
and I responded, and all hell broke loose, and we done some record-breaking things.
We did amazing. I put a lot of money in your pocket.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that was
How did
quite
that
an
happen?
insane- I mean, so Conor McGregor fights at UFC New York at Madison Square Garden. It was UFC 205, and he wins, and everyone's talking about Conor McGregor. The world is going buzzing about Conor McGregor. He's just electric. So he fights Saturday night. He wins. Sunday, everyone talks about Conor McGregor. Monday, everyone talks about Conor McGregor. Tuesday, Floyd Mayweather was shopping in the Diamond District, and I get a tip that Floyd Mayweather was shopping in the Diamond District. That was always pretty cool with Floyd. Like, he'd always give me a little bit of his time, and we had a good relationship. So I ran right over there. I go, "Floyd, like, you want to talk about Conor?" He goes, "What do you think?" I was like, "Yeah, we should go in on Conor." He goes, "All right, let's do it." So Floyd's walking down the street, and I asked Floyd, "Hey, did you see the Conor McGregor fight? Like, a lot of people comparing him to you." And he goes, "Listen, never compare an elephant to an ant. He's never done the things I do." And he just basically went on a whole 5-minute rant, taking all the steam away from Conor McGregor. The video became buzzing just like that. He took all the wind from Conor McGregor. The next day, I knew that Conor McGregor was still in New York, so I get a tip that Conor McGregor was having lunch at this place in Hell's Kitchen. I run over to the place at lunch. Conor McGregor comes out, and I say, "Conor, Floyd said never compare an elephant to an ant. What do you think?" And Conor's like, "Hey, tell him to say it to my face." Then I get Floyd Mayweather again talking trash about Conor McGregor. Then I get Dana White talking trash about Floyd Mayweather, which got the internet talking, which people start to create the biggest fight in fight history, the super fight, because people are like, "Can this actually happen?" But it's happened from the internet, which I kind of created that steam. I created that buzz of people like, "Man, this can maybe happen." It created the super fight, and I made these guys a lot of money, and all I got was a souvenir T-shirt.
Yeah, I was about to ask.
But
It was one of the biggest purses in fight history. Did they throw you any bones, man?
yeah, I mean, it was kind of crazy. I went out to the fight. They didn't throw me any bones, but I got to go out and experience it. Like, I just went out and paid for my trip. I just wanted to like experience like kind of like what it started. Like, it was just
Yeah.
more of an experience thing for me. Like, it was surreal. It was honestly, it was surreal just to kind of see what happened. And I've ran into Conor and Floyd since, and I have a really good relationship with both. And Conor's super cool, and I got to hang out with both. And it's just kind of, they're two huge stars, and to be part of their legacy, but part of their career, and to make these guys like, it was cool.
It's epic, man. It's just another great moment in your stellar career, man. It was really, really cool. And I was really, when I read that, I was like, man, how cool is that to be a part of it? Um, I wanted to ask you too about, so now I know you're still doing street interviews. You're obviously one of the most sought after street journalists, to use your word, street journalists in the world. But you're also doing the Hollywood Raw podcast with another TMZ alum, Dax Holt. Tell me about that, man. That's pretty cool that you guys are doing that together.
Yeah, I mean, Dax, we've been doing this podcast for 3 years now. It's been going really well. Dax and I, we work well together, and it's funny because Dax and I, we both worked at TMZ, but we didn't really like we knew of each other. We were friendly with each other, but we weren't friends. Like we just didn't work together. Dax worked in the newsroom. I worked on the streets. And Dr. Drew, of all people, said to Dax, like, I was pretty good at kind of keeping in touch with people after I left TMZ. Just see what people are doing because I just want to see what people are up to, but also like kind of vent to people because we were part of it together. So it's just good to have that kind of camaraderie. Like we came up together. And Dax was doing some stuff, and I reached out to him. I was like, dude, let's hop on a call, see what you're up to. And if you're in New York, let's hang out. If I'm in LA, let's hang out. And me and Dax kind of kept in touch. But then Dr. Drew approached Dax and said, hey, you should do like a podcast. And Dax thought of people do a podcast, and he thought of me, and he was like, Adam's pretty in the game. It's kind of interesting to have that perspective of a camera guy who's on the streets and a guy who's kind of invested in great break stories, and let's do a podcast together. I'm in New York, Dax is in LA, and it's kind of cool to kind of cover both coasts. So we kind of did start doing this podcast, and it's kind of really broke into something really big where we. Our thing on the podcast is called the Hollywood Raw Podcast. We always like to say we humanize Hollywood. We reveal the fourth wall of Hollywood. And, the conversations we have are conversations like we have with colleagues in the entertainment industry. Like, hey, how was that experience? How was that person? Were they cool? Were they not? Like we don't need to have Matt Damon on the podcast. Like we have people like, we have celebrities, we have publicists, we have even celebrity bodyguards. We have people that make the people famous. We have paparazzi in the photos because those people have some great stories. We have celebrity journalists to hear their stories and experiences from doing the job. And from doing this, we have a really, really strong fan base. And it's really cool. It's really exciting. And, we've had people like Mark Cuban on. We've had people like even like Tony Robbins on. And then we've had people like Larsa Pippen on. Like it's just everyone who has good stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And at one point I saw that you had you had a woman who works on private jets for celebrities to kind of give an inside scoop, which I thought was really an interesting take. And then you guys had recently posted a interview that you had done with Aaron Carter, who unfortunately tragically passed away recently. What was your conversation like with him? And it's just it's hard when you especially working at TMZ for so many years. You're on the forefront of these stories when celebrities pass or tragedy happens, but it sucks that it does. But what was your interaction with him? Do you remember talking to him and what it was like?
Yeah. We always like to have guests that are just sort of interesting. People that have a story or we're just like curious about. Like we had people like Brooke Hogan on, or Mike the Situation, where it's just like we want to hear a little bit more detail about the experience. And then one of those people, like we said, is like Aaron Carter. We wanted Aaron Carter on because he's just a person he's been on the fame part, but he's also had some tough moments in the industry and also dealing with the media and also being, so he's a very interesting guy. And we reached out to him and I like sent him a message. I saw an email on, I think it's social media or Instagram. And I sent him a message. Hey man, we'd love to have you on the podcast. He got back to me personally. He said right away, let's do it. And I think 2 days later, he came on the podcast, showed up on time. And we were kind of like not nervous, but nervous with him because you didn't know what kind of person he's going to be. Like, we only know what the media kind of portrayed him as, a problem child. And there could have been some issues as far as substances, but we didn't know. And he came on the podcast and he was great. Like he showed up on time. We could ask him anything. He's very direct, very specific, and he was just very cool. And we actually we believed everything he said because he was so convincing of his stories. And we left the podcast like fans of him because I actually did like some of his music, and he was just cool. And then obviously you hear about the news of him passing, and we're like, we should just kind of re-talk about like behind the scenes of that interview. We kind of broke down that interview and parts he said, and it's just. Looking back, it's just a really sad story. Sad for his family. It's sad for everyone because, we know from working on the media and how it's a wild story, and I think people want to hear from I think people like our stories are more interesting than the celebrities themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
And again, I say that from some of my favorite interviews are not with celebrities. It's from interviewing, like, I don't know, back in the day, I used to look forward to interviewing Matt Lauer, and people like Katie Couric, because I loved hearing their stories more than the celebrity story, because people didn't interview them. And Aaron was just one of those guys who was just very candid. He was very raw, and he was also like, ask me whatever you want. I respected it. I appreciated that.
Well, and that's the beauty of what you do. And TMZ as a whole, look, I'm not in love with TMZ. I had some good times there, but what I do respect is, the way that the interviews are conducted. Harvey always had this plan that we weren't going to do interviews like a typical talk show or morning show. Like, the interviews were going to be more of what the audience wants to hear versus what the celebrity wants, what the publicist wants the audience to hear. So I love that you guys are doing that. You guys have amazing guests. So, keep doing what you're doing. The last thing I'll leave you with is, you've had such an amazing career, so many highlights in your career. Where do you see yourself 5-10 years from now? What does Adam Glyn want to be doing?
It's a good question. It's a fair question, and I don't even know if I have the right answer for that. I want to. It's tough. For me, I work for myself, so I feel like, in a way, and when you work for yourself, you're always fighting for a paycheck. It's not like every Friday you're going to have that paycheck waiting for you. So my kind of income kind of changes, but it's what I just want to continue to do is just continue to have fun and be creative. I want to enjoy what I really do enjoy what I'm doing now, and I want to continue that. I would say I would love to monetize even more, but I love that I'm in my late 30s and I still enjoying what I'm doing. And I think I love it. Like, it's fun for me, and I just want to continue that thing. And I would say I love to produce like my own type of content, which I'm in talks of doing. But I've had some close calls, but sometimes, like, there's an issue, halfway through the deal that doesn't work through. But it's like, I want to be accepted more by the mainstream. I wouldn't want to wait outside and be on the streets as much. Like, I love doing stuff on the street. I just don't want to have to dedicate so much time to it. I wish more celebrities. I have a good relationship with a lot of these celebrities, but I wish some of these celebrities would understand. And I wish, like, some of these people just give me the credit. I appreciate being nice, but give me the credit where it's due. Like, it's still not easy. Like, I go on red carpets and I don't get approved for a lot of things. People still treat me like like a paparazzi, and I'm not. I'm in my own little thing. However, that's also, I use that towards driving me. That's what makes me work so hard, because I want to prove people wrong, but also the main part is I wanted to just continue to be happy and have fun.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, as somebody who's been in this business for 20 plus years, I see how hard you work. I see the fruits of your labor. I see the amazing things you're doing. And I wholeheartedly appreciate you being on this podcast and talking to me and sharing your stories with me. I think you're an amazing guy, Adam. When I'm in New York, I can't wait to look you up, man. I'll buy you drinks. We'll go out. We'll hang out.
Let's go.
But yeah, man, thanks for doing this. Good luck with everything. And I'll talk to you soon.